Mark Watts, Elitefts.com. I'm here at the S4 compound, and today I just want to talk a little bit about kettlebells. And one of the things I learned about kettlebells is that I've heard this from Dan John. There's two reasons why people get any kind of equipment, and one of them is that there's an exercise you can do on that piece of equipment that is so important for your programming that you have to have it, right? For kettlebells, that might be the swing. The other reason is because there's so much different variety that you can do with that different implement that it is beneficial to your program in that sense too. Think of a barbell, think of dumbbells, how many different exercises you can do with them. So that's really the argument. With kettlebells, sometimes it's both. And so one thing I want to talk about today is in an athletic setting. Now, I am not kettlebell certified. I am not an expert at kettlebells by any means, but did figure out a way to how to use kettlebells in an athletic setting, in a team setting. One of the things we did was we had a set of kettlebells. We had 4 or so per kettlebell, and we were able to use entire training sessions just with the kettlebell. Because of traffic, because of the amount of teams that we had, it was easier to have a whole team using kettlebells. Now, usually that work wasn't on our max effort days, but a lot of times that would alleviate a lot of traffic. So we learned to do some kettlebells. Now, the big knock against kettlebells is that they are a little more expensive, and most people say, you know, why? If I can do it with a dumbbell, why buy a kettlebell? So hopefully I'll go over a couple different things today that'll help you maybe implement those kettlebells in your program a little bit better. So the first thing is obviously the swing. Now with the swing, obviously there's we did a swing, kettlebell swing 101 on this, and one of the things we talked about was the Russian swing just coming up to the eye. So again, not going to repeat this, but again with the kettlebell swing, again, excellent movement, obviously, to produce power in the hips, right? Some people like to use the swing as a separate movement from the hinge. So the swing is more of an explosive type movement, if you're going to categorize those. And some people actually use it as a continuum of the hinge. Now it just depends on your train of thought. The one thing that we didn't do was swing over the head. Now I know for CrossFit competitions, that's one of the rules is if you're doing what they call an American swing over your head. Obviously we try to avoid that as much as possible because of any kind of impingement. What happens is with those arms straight, a lot of times you can have that shoulder issues. I'm not saying it's dangerous or unsafe, but again, that's one thing we want to avoid. A lot of times what people do is they end up bending those arms when they do that overhead swing. But the benefit of the overhead swing is that eccentric. So when that dumbbell comes, or the kettlebell comes down through the legs, it produces a lot more force. So what we end up doing is adding bands of that. And again, there's another video that Josh will put on here to connect you to that video too, and how to use a swing with bands. How do you progress from that? If you're just going to do swings, your athlete's going to be bored as heck throughout that whole progression, throughout a whole cycle. So to go incorporate a couple different progressions, here's some of the things that we did. So secondly, we went to just a single arm swing or an alternating swing. Everything's the same where I'm hiking it with it like a football, use my hips, popping the hips up, and having that kettlebell out in front. Now, same principle, swinging that, throwing that kettlebell down as fast as I can. The next progression we used was to incorporate some kind of posterior shoulder girdle, was a kettlebell swing and a high pull. Now a high pull with a kettlebell swing, not the same as a high pull with a barbell or dumbbells. That high pull is technically more like a face pull. So it'll be a 2-part movement. I'm going to swing and then I'm going to pull that to my face. So again, I wish I would have had someone, more athletic and more coordinated than I do, but you'll get the general principle. So again, using a swing, right? Even start with the swing and then add a high pull, pop, high pull, right? And again, that will actually add a little more of that posterior shoulder girdle movement with that. The next one would be a snatch. So most athletes want to try to avoid a snatch. Most athletes that aren't used to kettlebells, obviously it's that catch. When you're popping that weight up, that kettlebell comes around, catching on that forearm, a little bit of pain. So it's one of those things that you have to really address that. So a couple things that we do with that with a single arm would be, number one, if you're working with athletes, you don't have to worry about how high where they catch that. You can have them catch it out in front, and that's okay. That might actually even be safer for them. So again, what we do is, again, go through the high pull, then go through the snatch, and it's just going to be basically loosening my grip, tightening my grip, and punching that way through and try to meet my fist through the end of the kettlebell. Really, so I'm trying to punch it through. So one of the things we ended up doing was again, start with a swing, end up going with a high pull, and then from there, go ahead and snatch. So from there, one of the things you can do is, again, you can have that weight out in front. You don't have to have it so far over the head. But that's one of the things you can do with the athletes. Again, same principle. When I throw that kettlebell down, that eccentric force, reversing that eccentric force, is how you get the benefit of that. So that's one of the things that we would use. That's a little bit of a progression we can use. So.